Hello and welcome to Granada Reports. We're live with the latest across the northwest.
Hello there. On the programme this evening,
a victim of an NHS crisis, how time has run out for Winston, who's waited more than 2 years for an operation, only to be told it's now too late.
It's 80% chance that I'd lose my life. Now, I don't want to take that. I don't like living like this. I don't like being like this, but I just don't want to die.
the former soldier from Fleetwood took his own life after a decade of poor mental health. His parents tell us they want things to change.
As the region pauses to remember the fallen, we look back at the tragic tale of the American airmen who made an ultimate sacrifice.
It's the Northwest's newest visitor attraction. It's very interactive, as you can see. Find out more later in the programme. You right, Sophia?
With candy canes and silver lace and gold. And Christmas comes early.
Yeah, join us at the end of the programme. You won't be disappointed.
Well, you might be.
Yeah, just a little.
It's all of that coming up. But first tonight, to the patient who has waited so long for an operation on the NHS that he's now been told it is too late.
We first highlighted Winston Baldwin's plight 2 years ago as he waited for a triple hernia operation. He's now been told by several private surgeons that his condition is now so advanced that they can't operate.
Well, Mr. Baldwin is not alone. The number of people waiting for NHS treatment has reached record highs, more than 7 million across the UK.
Here in the Northwest, there are more than 1 million people waiting for NHS treatment. That's up almost a third since the same time last year.
Of those, over 500,000 people have been waiting more than 18 weeks. That's up almost 65% on last year. And 89,000 have been waiting more than a year.
Tonight's top story comes from our correspondent, Mel Barham.
From before the beginning of the pandemic, Winston has been on the waiting list for a triple hernia operation. He has waited and waited and waited. But after more than 2 years and in desperation, he sought help from a top surgeon at a private hospital in London, only to be told his condition is now so advanced it is too late to operate.
He says your chances are your lungs will get crushed and you'll be on a respirator for the rest of your life when they reset my diaphragm. There's also a strong risk of an infection. It's 80% chance that I'd lose my life. Now, I don't want to take that. I don't like living like this. I don't like being like this, but I just don't want to die.
We first highlighted Winston's situation last year. His hernia, the escape of internal organs through a hole in the muscle wall, has left him breathless and in constant pain. Now, even hope, he says, is gone.
I'm lost. Depressed, I suppose. It's a time of depression where your ambitions have been just swept away.
Winston says he's in no doubt that delays caused by COVID are the reason he's now in this position.
It's a form of neglect. They had a 90-day window to do it in 2019 and early 2020 before COVID struck. And it wasn't as big then, but it grew during 2020. If it had been done sooner, much sooner in 2019 or early 2020, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
We all know delays caused by the pandemic have had a massive impact on NHS waiting lists. There are currently more than 1 million people here in the Northwest alone waiting for NHS treatment. But what is less clear is just how many of those patients, like Winston, have been waiting for so long that it is now too late.
I am condemned to be like this. This is my sentence. And that's it. I'm half the man I was. I feel left behind and let down.
Mid-Cheshire Hospitals Trust say they're unable to comment in detail about individual patients due to confidentiality reasons, but would like to emphasise that they take any issues raised regarding a patient's care very seriously. But Winston believes he deserved better. He's now got to come to terms with the fact he'll be living with this hernia for the rest of his life. Mel Barham, ITV News, Oakhanger, near Crewe.
Well, Mel joins us in the studio now. Mel, you've seen firsthand, haven't you, the effects that this weight has had on Winston?
Yeah, and I mean, it's a really tragic case that we've highlighted here with Winston, isn't it? As you've seen, we've been following his story since June last year. And sadly, since we filmed last with Winston, his condition has now deteriorated further. He is currently in hospital with a fractured spine caused by the weight of the hernia on his posture. And sadly, Winston's case isn't an isolated one. You heard there those stats showing that there are now over 1 million people waiting for treatment in the Northwest alone. And although there aren't actually any figures to tell us how many of those like Winston are now too advanced for treatment, I've been speaking to a GP in Liverpool today who says he is witnessing this himself all too often. But he told me it's important that patients do know their rights and that they might be able to speed up treatment for themselves.
Have a really frank discussion with your GP and say, will I be seen quickly at that hospital that you've referred me to? Or is there somewhere I could be seen quicker, somewhere better? I'm willing to travel. I would like to see if there's somewhere I could be seen far sooner than the current waiting time or the current hospital you've referred me to. That's your choice and your right in the NHS Constitution. By doing that, we're actually going to stop this bottlenecking and actually get patients seen quicker and faster.
So, Mel, what has the Department of Health had to say about it?
Well, and they've acknowledged that we are heading for a busy winter ahead of us, but they say they're reducing the COVID backlogs and have virtually eliminated waits of more than 2 years for treatment thanks to their community diagnostic centres, which have delivered over 2 million additional checks and are based in accessible locations such as shopping centres and football stadiums. Of course, with the announcement this week of the nurses' strike, this could end up making the situation a whole lot worse.
Yeah, it's not an easy situation at all, Mel. Thank you.
In other news this evening, an inquest has heard that more should have been done to help a young army veteran who was suffering from mental health issues after numerous traumas.
Ben Richards, who was 30, was found at his home in Fleetwood 3 years ago after he'd been out with friends. His
death came after several attempts to take his own life.
His family are now calling for the system to be fixed to stop this ever happening again. Tasha Kachiri reports.
He was our son, but it wasn't our Ben.
No.
His life and soul just went out of him. To us, we could see it in his eyes. But they were just black holes. There was no life left in him.
In 2019, Ben Richards was found dead at his home. His death came after more than 10 years of struggles with his mental health.
We need to break the stigma that surrounds mental health.
Ben joined the Duke of Lancaster's regiment at 16, following in the footsteps of his older brother, and served in Iraq and Afghanistan. The inquest heard how Ben loved his job, but the pressures of those tours took their toll. Families say Ben's behaviour changed. He became erratic, unreliable, unkempt and started drinking excessively. A fire at his house in 2015 left him with severe burns on his head, neck, back and hands. Then in 2019, he was diagnosed with sarcoidosis, a lung condition that meant he became less active. All traumatic events that experts say would have affected his mental health greatly and possibly led him into a deep depression.
He was a strong mind, very strong mind. It was a sign of weakness to ask for help. And I found this is the same with everyone who served in the forces. If we're going to move forward in veteran suicide prevention, we have to persuade these people that there's nothing wrong with talking to your GP, there's nothing wrong with making that telephone call.
Ben made several attempts to take his own life and was assessed under the Mental Health Act. Each time he was discharged a few hours later. The inquest in Preston highlighted the difficulties that veterans experience navigating the civilian NHS. The court heard that opportunities were missed when Ben was referred for more help, but that referral went to an email address that was not in use and was never seen. Ben died just weeks later. The coroner, Dr. James Aidley, concluded that Ben took his own life on the 11th of April 2019. He went on to say that Ben's death was a tragedy for both himself and his family. He said the fact that so many family members came to the inquest shows how much Ben was loved and is still missed.
And I think from this inquest, we're pleased, for want of a better word, issues are being addressed. And we're hopeful that more issues will be addressed. We don't blame any individual. We never have from the start of this, and that's important. It's
systems.
It's processes and systems. There's nothing in place to...
We can't bring Ben back. What's happened has happened, but we want change and reform so it doesn't happen again.
Tasha Kachiri, ITV News, Preston.
Well, in a response to the findings of that inquest, Lancashire and South Cumbria NHS Foundation Trust say they fully accept the coroner's findings and offered their condolences to Mr Rich's family.
They said, we carried out a review into the care given to Mr Riches in 2019 and have since made a number of improvements, including an implementation of a policy and procedure to ensure any referrals of veterans are expedited so that they're assessed as quickly as possible.
It goes on, the Trust has introduced a dedicated veterans team to provide specialist mental health care and support for a range of conditions, including post-traumatic stress disorder.
Moving on, the region fell silent this morning on the 11th day of the 11th month.
Those who gave their lives in combat across the globe are remembered at services right across the region.
Of course, more events of remembrance will also be taking place across the weekend.
Last night, to mark this year's Remembrance Day, we featured the story of Victoria Cross medal winner Joel Halliwell during the First World War.
Well, tonight we move to World War II and the tragic tale of an American bomber which crashed in Wirral, killing 24 US airmen in 1944.
But their sacrifice has never been forgotten by the people of Landican, as Paul Crone reports.
An industrial estate near Birkenhead seems an unlikely place to find a World War II monument, but tucked away off the roadside, here it is. In October 1944, a Liberator bomber carrying 24 US airmen crashed in a field at Landican, killing everyone on board. Just a short distance from the crash site is now a memorial to those who perished.
They were the crew that had taken the aircraft over to Northern Ireland, and they had collected the crews of 3 aircraft which had been delivered to Greencastle and were bringing them back to their base at Tibenham in Norfolk. The 3 crews from the aircraft that had been delivered were relatively new to the squadron, having been trained in the sun in Florida, and now were given experience of what it was like to fly in the winter in Europe.
Its high speed is achieved with 4 radial engines developing well over 4,000 horsepower. The Liberator's armament is formidable and has, in fact, fought off attacks by Messerschmitt 109s and destroyed many of them.
Over 2 million American servicemen passed through Britain during the Second World War, but the square-shaped B-24 Liberator could easily turn into a death trap. It was hard to fly with its stiff and heavy controls, and so earned its name by its crews as the Flying Coffin. It's thought the bomber, which crashed at Landican, had an existing issue with leaking fuel on board. When the plane exploded, the Liberator started to disintegrate and plummet towards the ground. But pilot William Driscoll, who had over 200 hours of flying time in Liberators under his belt, knew he had to perform one more vital action.
Captain Driscoll, who was a pilot on the return trip, turned the aircraft after the explosion in midair towards the fields around Landican, avoiding coming down in the urban area and causing great devastation.
Bill Beagle is an American World War II historian, researcher and author.
I think that a lot of us in the States are ignorant about the war because it all happened somewhere else, right? And so I think that Americans would be very pleased to know that individuals in England and elsewhere are still appreciative, now that we're, 80 years past.
Only 4 of those who died remain buried at the Cambridge American Cemetery. The United States brought home 60% of America's World War II fallen. Not always an easy decision for families to make.
For so many folks, the idea that if we bring them home, we got to relive the whole thing. We have to have a funeral. We got to bring the relatives. Are there going to be people that say, "Hey, who's really in that big casket?" So they had a very, very tough decision, and I've seen hundreds of letters back and forth. Should we bring them home? Should we not? You know, for all those kind of reasons.
We've had a letter from the widow of one of the crew members who had only been married a very short time, saying how grateful she was that people over here in the UK recognised that the Americans had a great deal to do with the Second World War in helping us to win it.
But one thing is certain, the men who died on October the 18th, 1944 in Landican will never be forgotten. Paul Crone, ITV News, the Wirral.
Next tonight, after years of planning, the Northwest's newest visitor attraction has finally opened with a big bang today. Our cameras have been following the progress of the launch of Eureka Science and Discovery Centre on Merseyside.
The attraction at the Mersey Ferry Terminal in Seacombe aims to get children and young people interested in subjects like science, technology and maths.
Our reporter Victoria Grimes is there for us tonight. And Vicky, it looks busy.
Oh, it's so much fun here, and this is the perfect place to start your weekend off. Yes, it is the newest visitor attraction here in the Northwest. It's made by kids for kids, and what could be better to get you interested in science than having a look inside your own body? Maya here is doing just that. Maya, tell us what we've got here, sweetheart.
Inside my lungs.
Inside your lungs. Look inside those lungs. They're absolutely beautiful. Amazing. While you're looking at that, we'll just have a quick chat with your mum, Jen, who's a science teacher. Jen, tell me why this is so important for kids.
So it's a fantastic opportunity for children in the local area. We know that students have missed out a huge amount over the last couple of years as a result of COVID in terms of the amount of practical work they've been able to do.
It's the hands-on stuff,
yes,
isn't it? Like
we know they learn best through hands-on and through play, so I think it's amazing.
A great thing, a great addition to the Wirral. Thank you very much, guys. Let's move on now to Lewis. Hello, Lewis. Now, what are you looking at?
A digestive system.
A what system?
A digestive system.
A digestive system. We've practiced that a few times, haven't we? You smashed it, mate. High five. Good work. You keep playing with that. Lovely stuff. Right, let's move on, because it's not all about parts of your body and stuff like that. We have got a door here. Now, where are my door helpers? Where are Felix and Penny? Excuse me, young man. Can I borrow Felix and Penny? Just bring them in. Now, what is behind this door, guys? Pull it open. Let's have a look. What's that? Oh, I don't like that. Do you want to do it again? Not even you can get excited about broccoli, Felix. Well done, guys. That's lovely. And let's have a little quick look over here, because we've even got blood pressure monitors. Charlie and Sydney have been busy all day. I'm just going to do mine while we're here. Guys, how's yours, Sydney?
Quite low at the minute because I'm off school this week.
It's quite low because he's off school. My meanwhile is sky high, because that's what live TV does to you. Let's move on to Lee Ann here. So lovely for the kids. How pleased are you to be open now, Leanne?
Oh, I can't even begin to tell you. It is so exciting to see all these children and families here today having such an amazing time. It's absolutely brilliant.
Well, I think the kids have told the story for us today, haven't they, in terms of what it can do, what it looks like, how special it is. And I really hope that kids watching at home will pay a visit here, because it's absolutely brilliant. I'm going to go back on the blood pressure thing and see if I can get mine down a bit, although a gin and tonic might be needed for that. Leanne, have you got a place for the parents as well?
Yeah, well, we have our calm place where
Excellent.
you can sit on a big beanbag and take a deep breath. No gin and tonics, but...
Beanbag's fine. I can cope with the beanbag. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Right, how's yours doing?
I know what she means about the blood pressure, don't you?
Yes. Time for sport now, and it's the final weekend of action for our top teams before their World Cup break. Here's David.
Yeah, that's right. Supporters of our Premier League and Championship clubs better make the most of seeing their sides in action, because they won't be seeing them for a while after this weekend. Well, this is the last round of fixtures before the break for the World Cup, which starts a week on Sunday, and Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp doesn't expect any of his 7 Qatar-bound players to hold back tomorrow.
This is our World Cup. If you want, the Southampton game. That's how it is. We had obviously a tricky first part of the season. If we can win this game, it gives us kind of a distance where we can see light at the end of the tunnel, and that's exactly the mindset all the boys have as well.
Well, what a way to go into the Championship break with a huge Lancashire derby between Burnley and Blackburn. It's first versus second as these two clubs lead the race to return to the Premier League. And for both managers, it's a first taste of this local rivalry.
The rivalry is there to be played out on the pitch. For us, I think there's the two things we're looking at. We want to get a result and we want everyone to enjoy the game with the families, with the children and everyone from both sides getting home safe and healthy.
It's a massive game for the area, massive game for the club. The first I heard when I signed, it was about Burnley, the first minute more or less. Football is about those games, those special moments, which means a lot for our fans.
Well, away from the league, Burnley and Blackburn are also involved in the draw for the fourth round of the EFL Cup. Well, Burnley will go to Old Trafford after Manchester United beat Aston Villa 4-2 last night. Elsewhere, Blackburn host Nottingham Forest. The standout tie is Manchester City against Liverpool, and those games will be played the week before Christmas. Now, it's a huge weekend of sporting finals, and despite being played on the other side of the world, there's plenty of Northwest interest in the cricket. Lancashire's Jos Buttler will lead England as they face Pakistan in Sunday's final of the T20 World Cup in Australia. Before then, tomorrow morning, it's the Women's Rugby Union World Cup final. England do battle with New Zealand in front of a record crowd of 40,000 at Eden Park in Auckland. Well, Formby's Holly Aitchison will start for the Red Roses, and finding out she was in the team was a nerve-wracking experience.
I've been on the bench for the past 3 games, so I kind of looked at the bench first and was like, oh my God, have I been dropped? And then looked immediately to the starters and realised that I was in it at 12, so then obviously I was a lot happier, but it was like that immediate, gut-wrenching feeling like, oh no, I'm not going to get to play, to absolute elation pretty quickly.
And you can see that final live right here on ITV at 6:30 tomorrow morning. Well, switching codes, and England's men and wheelchair teams will also be trying to reach the finals of the Rugby League World Cup. The wheelchair team face Wales in their semi-final on Sunday, while tomorrow the men take on Samoa at a new ground for the sport, Arsenal's Emirates Stadium.
I think rugby league is the best sport in the world, and these athletes what play our sport, there's not many athletes in the world could do what they do. So I want as many eyes on our game as possible, and taking it down to London, and there's a huge crowd this weekend at Arsenal. I'm really happy.
Getting that winning feeling. FOW, sponsors of the Granada Sport Report.
No one in British boxing has ever had the massive following that Ricky Hatton enjoyed during his time at the top of the sport. His fans will once again be out in force when the former world champion returns to the ring in his hometown of Manchester tomorrow night. Now 44, he's putting his gloves back on for an exhibition fight against the Mexican legend Marco Antonio Barrera. And the hitman says it's going to be an emotional evening.
It always meant a lot to me, the crowd, you know what I mean? And the last time I boxed there was 10 years ago with my comeback fight, and it ended in defeat. I never thought I'd be back there again, but I am. And I'm in a better place mentally, since the comeback fight 10 years ago. I've made up with my mum and dad, which was probably the main thing missing in my life. They're going to be there on Saturday night, and that is a big major thing for me, because family, friends, and where I come from has always been a big thing for me, and they were a big part of that was missing, but they're back. And so am I.
I missed it the first time round, so really excited to get a little taste of the atmosphere, and no one's ever come close to creating an atmosphere like my dad at the MEN. So for me to experience a bit of that is something that I can't wait for.
It's going to be great. How much do those two look like each other? Yeah, it's crazy.
Like he doesn't age either, a bit like yourself, David.
Thanks, David.
Thanks a lot.
Now, how early is too early? Yes, I'm afraid so. Mind your ears, we're about to say the C word.
That's right. Christmas is just around the corner. Well, sort of.
And two people very excited about that are musical superstars Aled Jones and Cheshire's very own Russell Watson.
The duo have just released a new Christmas album to get you in plenty of time to get into that Christmas spirit before the big day.
And to mark the occasion, they spent the day in a festive garden centre right here in the northwest to meet their adoring fans.
Our entertainment correspondent Caroline Whitmore went along.
It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas everywhere you go. Take a look at the 5 and 10. It's glistening once again with candy canes and silver lace that glow.
Well, it certainly is beginning to look a lot like Christmas here at Bent's Garden Centre in Warrington as powerhouse duo Alan Jones, that's you two, and Russell Watson, you're releasing your Christmas album today.
I know, how exciting is that? And what an amazing turnout here. Everyone's feeling Christmassy, including us.
Well, I was going to say, you've got a fair few fans here as well. They've been here for a few hours as well, haven't they?
They have, absolutely.
Signed a few hundred today. It's been an amazing turnout. Yeah. We love Christmas time, don't we?
Absolutely. The only person who hasn't bought a CD is you.
I will get one at the end, Alan.
Oh, yeah. Do we believe her?
No. But talk to us, though, about the album, because it's lots of Christmas classics, isn't it?
It's all Christmas classics. A collection of, we've got our usual hymns and our arias on there, but there's a few curveballs, isn't there, Alan?
Yeah, absolutely. Russ got me to sing Spaceman Came Travelling.
I bring a message for mankind to hear, and suddenly the sweetest music. He generally does the classical arias and that type of repertoire, the hymns, and he really does sound very, very good on the pop stuff as well.
I've enjoyed it.
Oh, see, Russell Watson saying you've got a new career in pop.
I'll take that. No, listen, it's been brilliant. Actually, the blend of our voices on this album is the best we've had out of all of them, really.
We're seeing you starting your tour on Sunday at the Manchester Opera House. Is that just the songs from the album, or will we see any little surprises?
It's all Christmas repertoire. You looked at me then, didn't you? Because you didn't know. Did you see that?
I didn't see what we've done
Alan,
yet.
have you been rehearsing? Alan's no idea.
There's loads of time. He doesn't know what we're doing. No. It's a Christmas album.
When are we starting?
Alan, I love you. Brilliant.
So yeah, it's all Christmas stuff. So there's a few Christmas songs which we put on the last two albums as well. Things like Silent Night.
Yep. And Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas.
Well done.
Hey.
High five to that.
And there's
I love
a few
that.
tracks that aren't Christmassy as well.
Listen, I love the repertoire that you've got between you, and you've got to get some work done.
We have.
So there you go. Good
you.
luck with the album. Good luck with the tour. And last question: who's the better singer?
Oh, Russ is. Of course he is. And by the way, you can buy the CD just there.
I will. I'll go.
Yeah.
I'm going now.
You've redeemed
Thank you.
yourself.
Thanks.
I'm off to buy a CD.
Yeah, you liar.
No sign of snow, hopefully, at the moment. Let's get the weather. Here's Kerry.
Why do I need a shower? I've been out in the rain.
The faster you go, the sooner you'll be out. You'll save water too.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Yes, thank you. A very good evening to everybody. A warm and windy 11th of November today. Quite a lot of cloud around, a few breaks here and there during the course of the afternoon, but it was those temperatures that were the focus, not just overnight last night where it didn't dip any lower than 13.9 Celsius in Blackpool. In fact, Myers-Coe in Lancashire didn't dip below 15.3 Celsius last night. That was a record-breaking high for overnight lows. And then today, Myers-Coe got to 19.5 Celsius, and that beats the previous warmest Armistice Day, which was set way back in 1977, and that was way down south at Kensington Palace in London. Now we stick with high pressure and a warm southerly flow as we head into the weekend, but not quite as mild as today. And then we've got a weather front approaching by Monday. That will freshen things up into next week, and then low pressure takes charge from the Atlantic, so more unsettled with temperatures back down to what we'd expect. But overnight tonight, we're still above the average of around 5 Celsius for our lows. We're still in double figures, certainly for towns and cities overnight tonight. A little bit of dampness for the Isle of Man and for Cumbria, but the wind's much lighter. Still blustery for the Isle of Man, but we got highs of over 51, 52 miles per hour during the course of today, and mostly dry as we head into Saturday. In fact, that is the theme for the weekend. We stay mild but mostly dry as we head into the next couple of days. So Saturday, a bit of cloud around, some mist and murk over the hills to begin, but increasing amounts of sunshine from the south as we head into the afternoon. And with lighter winds, despite not being as warm as today, still well above the average for the time of year. As we head into Sunday, again, there could be some mist and fog to begin, but plenty of sunshine for the afternoon and staying milder than average.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
19 degrees, unheard of in November.
So mild at the moment. I nearly threw my hat and scarf away, but I don't think that's a good idea.
I put my washing out and it was dry in an hour.
Oh, wow. Bonus.
That's it from us. I'll be back with the late news after the news at 10 tonight. See you then.
Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.